Hello, it's Reija and welcome to another video. Today I am going to be doing another monthly book recs video. This month the theme is cinematic books or cinematic reads, and what that means is pretty much up to interpretation. We can talk about book to movie adaptations or books that have a certain cinematic visual quality, and I am going to be combining those two things. I am going to be talking about books that, in my opinion, would lend themselves to an movie or TV adaptation because of the visual quality in the text itself. I hope you will enjoy. The first book that I want to recommend is Genemapper by Taiyo Fuji. This is about programmed genetics and genetic engineering, and also about piracy and forgery. And it takes this scientist through various countries in South Asia to figure out a crime that he was framed in, basically. And it is very sort of like I can picture it taking place in places like Vietnam and Thailand and stuff. It takes it goes through a couple of South Asian countries, and also we start in Japan. So we have locations that are super expressive and have a really distinct vibe and are very different from each other. The book starts in Tokyo, but then we visit like Ho Chi Minh and stuff. So you have these really vibrant places, and I think that has such a visual quality to it. Like all the colors, all the foods, the markets, the people. Like you could have such a fun visual experience by making a film of this book. And it's also like a science fiction mystery, which I also think is a very interesting concept for a movie. So I would definitely want to see an adaptation of Genemapper by Taiyo Fuji. The next book that I think has superb visual potential is the 5th season, and specifically the whole Broken Earth trilogy. I would want to see maybe a mini-series or like a one-season TV show about this series. And you have first of all, you have like very scientifically leaning magical powers that people have. You have these floating crystals that are emitting energy. You have multiple cataclysmic events like lava and like earthquakes and people manipulating Earth. That is all very visual. You could have like many different kinds of color palettes. There are like in this book trilogy there are multiple timelines, so you could play with colors by having a different color palette for different timelines and different like plot elements. Like for example, Nassun's point of views in the second book, they could be adapted by being played from a child's point of view. So you could have like very sort of forced perspective to make things look alienating and bigger from her perspective and stuff. It would be amazing. And these are just the thoughts that I had when I read these books. That I had this visual experience when I was reading it. So who knows what an experienced, imaginative producer or a creative person in the field could come up with. This series has so much potential for adaptation, just saying. And then we have the Dandelion Dynasty. I haven't talked about this in a while, but these are one of my favorite books that I read in 2017, I want to say, and I really enjoyed reading them, and I can't wait for the third part in this series. And if any of you are watching like Chinese films, I want to say that a lot of my friends recently have been watching The Untamed. There's a lot of like Chinese and Korean historical dramas out there, and the Dandelion Dynasty would make a perfect TV series inspired by those kinds of dramas, by Asian historical fantasy series. It would be perfect. Like, imagine something like Untamed or Kingdom or The Curse of the Golden Flower. Add some draconic creatures and stuff, and basically you have this book, and it has gods, and it has multiple points of view, so you can tell a really multi-layered story, and I just feel that this would make an excellent TV show. So people are sleeping on it, and more people need to read it too. I will say that this is often referred to as, it even says it in this bloody, like, back of the book, that this is like an Asian Game of Thrones. It is not. It is often compared to it, but this is very much its own distinct different thing. And I would actually say that this reads more like an epic in the vein of something like the Norse, like Edda or Kalevala, not in the way that it is in verse, but in the way that the characters feel very larger than life, very much like legends rather than like human characters, if you know what I mean. It's very much like the romance of the Three Kingdoms and the like heroes of the Edo period and the Warring States period, you know, very much that feeling of these larger than life generals doing unimaginable feats. But it's also super entertaining and fun and tackles interesting themes. But just know that going into it, it is a very dense and sort of heavy read. Not your standard multi-point of view fantasy. I wouldn't be talking about a visual treat in book form if I didn't mention The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This was one of the first books that I read that were definitely on my radar because of BookTube. When I first joined the community and started making videos, this was everywhere and I read it and I loved it. And this is a very slow-paced, sort of dreamlike quality in its setting, and it's very much that black and white and red color palette. And you could do so much with this. You could have the circus scenes be completely in black and white and just have spots of red everywhere, and then the scenes taking place in the real world be in a different color palette. It would look so amazing, and that is kind of what I pictured when I was reading this. It is wonderful, and I'm due a reread at some point, but this is just... I wish someone would make a movie out of this. And the final book that I want to talk about is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. Now, if you have been on my channel for a while, you know that I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of this book. But I will say that where this book's strengths are the visual quality. This book has so much going for it in terms of vibe and setting, and that feeling that you get when you read of what the world looks like. That sort of desert, dusty, grimy, sort of like apocalyptic setting. But at the same time, it is not a hopeless place. Like, sure, there are negative traits and like monsters creeping around, but you get a sense that this desert landscape, in a sense, it's more freeing to the people than the alternative of what was before the flooding event that caused the apocalypse to happen. You get a sense of freedom in this world. And you get a sense that all of the people, in a sense, have agency and are sort of masters of their own destiny. And there's just something electrifying and riveting about that. And I feel like a proper handling of this book in an adaptation could really work with that feeling. And it would be so nice to see a full-on Native American cast, you know, playing all these characters. That would be amazing. And especially some of the more supernatural scenes, I feel like would be so great in color or even in like animation. You could play with the whole sort of different dimensions and illusions and stuff by having a mixed media element, like combining live action with animation. That would be dope. And there you have it. This has been my monthly book recs video for cinematic reads or cinematic books. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me some sort of flower emoji down in the description so I know you were here. And if you want to support this channel in any what way you can, I have now opened a print shop where I showcase and sell my art. And that will be linked down in the description, so if you want, check it out. And if you are able, and if you want to, and if some of the art strikes your fancy, please consider buying a print or two. And I will see you in another video very soon. Bye bye!